Let's start with a man who can make a guitar sound like it's having an existential crisis, and somehow make it sound incredible. Steve Vai grew up on Long Island, studied under Joe Satriani as a teenager, and by 18 was transcribing Frank Zappa's most unplayable compositions by ear. Zappa hired him on the spot and called him his little Italian virtuoso. That alone should be enough for a plaque on a wall somewhere in Cleveland. After Zappa, Vai joined Alcatraz, then went on to redefine what electric guitar could sound like with David Lee Roth and Whitesnake. His 1990 solo album, Passion and Warfare, is still considered one of the greatest guitar albums ever recorded. Three Grammy Awards, 15 nominations, millions of records sold, thousands of guitarists influenced. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has not nominated him once. Not once. They did find room for ABBA, though. I'm absolutely sure Steve is fine with that. Here's a fun fact. Kirk Hammett of Metallica took guitar lessons from Joe Satriani. Steve Vai took guitar lessons from Joe Satriani. Larry Lalonde of Primus, Alex Skolnick of Testament, they were all Satriani students. The man built the fingerboard roadmap that an entire generation of rock guitarists followed, then had one of the most successful instrumental guitar careers in history. Surfing with the Alien came out in 1987 and went platinum without a vocalist on the record. Gotta think about that. An instrumental guitar album going platinum in the hair metal era. He has sold over 10 million albums, making him the best-selling instrumental rock guitarist of all time. 15 Grammy nominations, 0 wins, which at this point feels less like an oversight and more like a deliberate running joke that nobody at the hall bothers to explain. The Rock Hall has never called. His former students are legends. He taught the legends. The hall draws the line right there. Michael Schenker joined the Scorpions at 16. 16. Most people at 16 are failing algebra. Schenker was already one of the most exciting young guitarists in Europe. By the time he joined UFO, in 1973, at just 18, he was playing on records that would define melodic hard rock guitar for the next 2 decades. His work on UFO's Lights Out and Strangers in the Night, which is widely considered one of the greatest life rock albums ever made, cemented his reputation as a player of extraordinary taste and ferocity.
Thank you very much, and have a good night. That was Michael Schenker.
He left to form the Michael Schenker Group and released respected albums well into the 80s and beyond. Guitar World has ranked him among the all-time greats. Fellow musicians have cited him endlessly over the years. The Rock Hall has never nominated him with UFO or as a solo artist. The Scorpions, the band he helped launch as a teenager, were inducted in 2023. Schenker was not included. Lovely. Gary Moore could play absolutely anything. Blues, heavy metal, jazz fusion, or just pure hard rock. He moved between genres with total authority and made each one feel completely natural. Born in Belfast in 1952, he was playing professionally by his teens, and by the time he joined Thin Lizzy in the mid-70s, he was already considered one of the most dangerous guitarists on the circuit. His partnership with Phil Lynott produced some of Thin Lizzy's finest moments. His 1990 album, Still Got the Blues, introduced a whole new generation to what a guitar could do in the hands of someone who truly understood the instrument at a deep level. It sold over 1 million copies worldwide and remains one of the great blues rock records. Gary Moore died in February 2011 at 58. He never received a Rock Hall nomination. The Hall had plenty of time to fix that while he was alive. They chose not to. Some decisions just follow you. Say what you want about Yngwie Malmsteen, and people certainly do, but nobody else did what he did. In 1984, a 21-year-old Swede arrived in Los Angeles with a scalloped Stratocaster and Paganini in his head, and proceeded to detonate a subgenre of guitar playing that simply did not previously exist. Neoclassical metal, speed, precision, minor keys, and baroque phrasing. Malmsteen invented the rulebook and then spent 40 years refusing to follow anyone else's. His debut, Rising Force, was nominated for a Grammy for Best Rock Instrumental Performance. Guitar players everywhere had their minds completely rearranged. Entire careers were built in his shadow. Whether you find him subtle or self-indulgent, his influence on electric guitar is not up for debate. The Rock Hall has never nominated him. They have inducted acts with considerably less technical contribution to the instrument. I will leave it at that. Trower spent years in Procol Harum as one of the most underappreciated guitarists in British rock, then left in 1971 to build a solo career producing one of the most distinctive guitar sounds of the entire decade. His 1974 album, Bridge of Sighs, is a slow-burning atmospheric masterpiece built on tone, space, and a Stratocaster through a high watt that sounded like it was being played at the bottom of a very deep ocean. He was constantly compared to Jimi Hendrix, which was both fair and reductive. Trower had his own thing entirely rooted in feel rather than flash. Where other guitarists of the era played faster and louder, Trower played slower and deeper. It made him genuinely unusual in the best possible way. Fans found him. Critics respected him. The Rock Hall has not found him in 5 decades of operation. Bridge of Sighs turns 51 this year. It still sounds better than most of what gets nominated. Before Yngwie, before Vai, before the neoclassical guitar movement even had a name, there was Uli Jon Roth. The German guitarist joined the Scorpions in 1973 at 18 and spent 5 years completely rewriting what a hard rock solo could be, drawing from Hendrix, from Beethoven, from anything he could reach. On albums like Entrance and Virgin Killer that remained deeply influential to serious players, he left the Scorpions in 1978, just before they became a global phenomenon with Love Drive. Which is exactly the kind of timing that tends to cost you Hall of Fame votes. He went on to form Electric Sun, pursued an increasingly classical direction, built a sky guitar with extended frets to reach orchestral registers, and performed Beethoven's Violin Concerto on electric guitar. He is, quite frankly, operating on a completely different frequency altogether. The Rock Hall has no nomination for him. Guitarists who know his work find this quietly and persistently outrageous. In the summer of 1969, Alvin Lee walked onto the stage at Woodstock and played I'm Going Home at a speed that made the entire audience unsure what they were watching. He was 25 years old. The performance was captured in the Woodstock film, seen by millions worldwide, and immediately established him as one of the fastest and most electrifying guitarists on the planet. 10 years after were a major band throughout the late 60s and early 70s. Strong live performers who drew huge audiences across multiple albums. Lee's playing on A Space and Time demonstrated that speed was only part of his arsenal. He could play with real soul, and on slower material, the depth of his ability became even clearer. Alvin Lee died in March 2013 following complications from surgery. He was 68. The Rock Hall never nominated him, never inducted him, never apparently gave him much thought at all. The Woodstock film is still playing, though. Technically, Neal Schon is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Inducted with Journey in 2017, so if you want to be precise, he is in. But here's the thing. Schon joined Santana at 15. Carlos Santana himself described the teenage Schon as a prodigy and brought him into the band because he simply could not say no to what he was hearing. Schon played on Santana 3 at 16, contributing some of the most assured lead guitar on the record. He co-founded Journey, steered them through their rainy rock peak, and produced some of the most melodic and identifiable lead guitar of the entire 80s. His phrasing on lights faithfully in separate ways is immediately recognizable to anyone who has ever turned on a radio. His Santana years alone, as a teenager, arguably justify a separate induction entirely. The Hall gave him one plaque for one band, partial credit for a very full career. Randy Rhoads was 25 when he died in a plane crash on the 19th of March, 1982. He had recorded 2 albums with Ozzy Osbourne, Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman, and he had done more to redefine heavy metal guitar across those 2 records than most players manage in an entire career. His classical training combined with his metal instincts produced something with no real precedent whatsoever. Not before him, and honestly, not quite since. He had studied classical guitar formally and was planning to leave Ozzy's band to return to school for a music degree. Quiet, thoughtful, obsessively dedicated to getting better. The guitar world was watching him with something close to disbelief at what he was still becoming. He never got to become it. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has never nominated him. 25 years old, 2 albums, over 40 years of being ignored. That one is not funny at all. These 10 guitarists, decades of being overlooked. The Hall keeps making decisions and the guitar community keeps not forgetting about it. If I missed someone, which I probably did, let me know in the comments. Subscribe if you want more, and I'll see you in the next one.